Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Naked with Dr. Money. I'm Dr. Stephanie Ardrey, known as Dr. Money. And if you've been tuning in, you know our date is every Wednesday, noon Pacific time. We get together and we get to explore mindsets, motivations, and manifestations. So, Naked with Dr. Money was created to allow a peek behind the scenes as I, in my role as CEO of ZenoVerse Wellness Group, navigate the day to day journey of building a startup company in an international marketplace and all of the complexities that go with that type of opportunity. But more importantly, if you have started a company and if your business requires outside capital, the capital raising journey is also a very unique process and journey. One, you must understand everything about the type of capital relevant to the stage of your business in its evolution and all of those things. So it can be pretty involved, right? And when we're talking about keeping yourself healthy, mind, body, and soul. And some of us who are known as type A personalities, keeping ourselves healthy, even keeping the stress under control, can be a challenge sometimes. So each week, I invite a guest and we discuss mindset because mindset has everything to do with how you experience your daily journey. If you get up in the morning and you set the intention to have an amazing, outstanding day, then typically you may find that you experience an amazing, outstanding day. If you get up in the morning and you dread that day, then sadly you may have dreadful experiences throughout the day. So I do believe that mindset has everything to do with your experiences and, more importantly, your outcomes. So today I am having a guest. Tijani is what I know him as. And he has an organization, Healing in the Gardens, which we're going to talk about. As usual, I'm going to ask Tijani about his mindset. Is it the result of his nature, how he was nurtured, or a little bit of both, and how his mindset contributes to motivations and then also his manifestations? He's been busy. I don't want to hold back any time. I want us to be able to have a really fluid conversation. So, without any further ado, I'm going to bring Tijani into this conversation. Hey, sir.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you today?
I'm feeling blessed. Amazing.
That's wonderful. Well, I know you were trekking around the world a little bit ago.
Yeah. We just came back. We did a African tour, a health tour, and as a nutritionist and a herbalist, we were able to just have workshops that helped a lot of people dealing with health issues. The issues that's plaguing people not only in the states or in the so-called first world countries, but also in Africa, the Caribbeans, and all over. And we find that it's the same thing. So we've been able to help a lot of people, and yeah, it was an amazing experience. Now I'm back in Jamaica, and hey, the work continues.
Absolutely. Well, I can't wait. I should be back in a few weeks. I'm working on my return and I'm actually putting together a small wellness trick. Doc and I were talking about there are a few patients that he has that are looking to come in. And then there's some patients from the US that want to come in for healing and to detox their bodies. And right now is the perfect time. You think about it at home. You typically get ready for spring. You do spring cleaning. Well, it's time to do body cleaning, right? Clean that body.
Yeah. I mean, you have to do spring cleaning. You're supposed to detox or do an internal cleanse every season. So
Right.
whenever it's springtime, and you can break these up every three months. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? But yeah, this is what we do. I mean, recently I just drank some spring water from a new spring, and I'm telling you, like, I just I had the runs. I was just going through it. I feel nauseated. And I had to realize that not only is the season changing, that we're entering spring, but also the new elements and minerals that's from this spring water is now in my body and it's doing a detox. So
Mhm.
most people would think that, oh man, I drank from this spring and I'm having this. Oh, the spring might be contaminated. But no, it's pure spring water. It's just that it's doing a cleanse. And you can, and it's amazing that you can just by drinking a water that's filled with minerals and oxygen, that you can do a cleanse to your body. You know
And
what I'm
most
saying?
times, yes, and people don't realize that. But I was so funny you would mention that because I was talking to a girlfriend. She was doing bottled water, and I was just saying, you've got to get away from the plastic, just how many toxins are in the plastic. And if you're putting it in the freezer or you're letting it sit in the sun, that's even worse. You don't even realize all of the particles that are being released from that, and that's going into your system,
That's
right? So
that's right.
it's like, so you want to get the water as pure as you can get it, with mineral rich water, but put it in glass, get a
Yeah,
glass container,
exactly.
get a copper container.
Copper container glass, you know what I'm saying? The thing about stainless steel, the
Yeah.
thing about it is that most of the water that you see in bottle is dead water.
Yeah.
You know, it's dead water. It's devoid of minerals. And the thing about it is that what they call alkaline water is really a machine alkaline. They're using electricity with a machine to try to produce what is called alkaline. But when it's in a pure spring and it has minerals and it has oxygen, it's
Mhm.
already alkaline. And it's a type of alkaline that's natural. You know what I'm saying? Because the water that that they're trying to copy, we have it in the coconut, right? They're just trying to contain it in a container, but it has no minerals, no nutrients. And actually, if it's in plastic, like you say, it can make you sick because those particles are in the water. So yeah, you know what I'm saying? I know everybody don't have access to the spring, but like in Atlanta, where my practice is in Atlanta, we have great springs. So you don't have to come to the Caribbean. You can try to tap into where the spring is in your location.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, I am so excited to have you today. As I shared, we talk about mindset, motivations, and manifestation. So, Tijani, tell me, when did you first realize that you had a particular mindset? That's kind of part A of the question. And part B is, do you believe your mindset is the result of your nature, how you were nurtured, or a little bit of both?
So I grew up in Jamaica with my grandmother. Okay. And my grandmother, she kept an indigenous lifestyle because she's from the hills of Trelawney, and in Trelawney, most of the people are farmers, so they do indigenous farming. And indigenous farming is the way that we farm in indigenously is that we rotate our farm, so our farm is not in just one area forever. We move, it's called like a moving farm, or we rotate the crops because
Mhm.
after 7 years, the crop is devoid of minerals. So you deplete the minerals in the soil, right? So she keep the culture like that, plus the spiritual culture, but she also mix it with Christianity because she was a strict Christian, right? So I went to church basically almost 7 days a week growing up with her. And I also learned of the indigenous ways, right? Like I learned about plants. She was the one that taught me about the spiritual aspect of plants, of harvesting plants, the proper way to do it, the way of when you come to take a plant, something from a plant, you give that plant something, you know what I'm saying? And to also talk to the plant and talk to the creator. So she taught me that. And also, after a while, she opened up a shop, right? I helped her to build a shop where we sold some herbs, but we also sold natural organic foods. Now, when I was growing up, I didn't know that I was being taught. I didn't know I was being taught. I was just living my life. It actually took when I was a teenager and I traveled, right?
Mm.
When I traveled to New York, I went to New York first. That was the first state that I traveled to. When I went there and I began to meet people who would talk about herbal medicine, Then I realized that, hey, I had the best. My grandmother was a master herbalist, right? And more than that, she was a herbalist on a different level because she approached it from a mindset, from a spiritual perspective, right? So it was at that point, as I began to develop myself in this field, then I realized that I was learning from my grandmother and everything that she instilled in me. So yes, it's really from the mindset, and I would go a step further, that it's from the heart, because the heart connects to the mind, right? So most people start from the mind in like a thought, but it really comes from the heart, and it's a spirit. It's a spirit that motivates. We see the mind as three stations: the stomach, right? The stomach is also considered the mind, the
Yep.
heart, and the brain, right? And when all three is in unison, then you're supposed to be able to see clear, right? So I do believe that my grandmother taught me without me knowing, but once I got older and I began to dive into it, I can clearly see that yes, it's my mindset that made me do the things that I do. I want to live healthy. I want to see people prosper and be healthy. And I also want to spread goodness in the world. And this is from the original teacher, my grandmother.
You know, it's so interesting because I'm not Jamaican, I don't think, but Jamaica feels like home whenever I'm there. And as I had an opportunity to meet people around the island, you know, folks, and then finally went to Kingston, you know, people are like, well, oh, you hang out in the country. And I'm like, in the country, that's where everything's happening, right? It's like, they're like, we're in the city now. I'm like, no, 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 you guys are taking. So my friends are, well, don't you want to come to Kingston? I'm like, very little time spent in Kingston.
City life.
if I
Nobody
want,
wants to be in a city.
if I want to be in a city, I could stay in the U.S. I come for the country, right?
It's the same thing. Even when I was in Dakar in Senegal, and Dakar is such a city. It's so like it's still, even though it's Africa, and yeah, it might have dirt road and sandy roads, it's still tall buildings,
Yeah,
and it's so close to each other. It's like New York.
yeah.
So no matter where you at in the world, the countryside is where you have the fresh air, where you have the water, where you have the herbs, the fruits. So who don't want to be in the countryside? That is the life.
That is the life,
I'm a
absolutely.
country
But
boy forever.
that
Yeah.
being said, you to realize that your grandmother had been sowing seeds and really helping you to connect, you know, sort of in a way that you didn't even realize that that was the guidance that you were receiving. So you were being nurtured in a certain way, but it also was your nature that was willing to receive that nurturing
Yes.
and to take action, because that's really what leads to the motivation. So when you began to realize these things, I mean, did you plan that you would have a healing journey? I mean, was it always your intention to be in the healing business, or did you have other interest that then you kind of retreated and came back to your healing practices?
Well, I'm a musician by trade also,
Okay.
right? So that was one of the talents that I had from I was young. So before I start practicing for myself medicine, herbal medicine, I was really diving into the arts, into the musical arts, right? And I became conscious of word, sound, and power, and that I have to say positive things and bring a positive light to the music. So once I began to do that, I noticed that my mindset was, changed, and want to connect more with spirituality and connect more with just consciousness, whether it's God consciousness, whether it's just consciousness about yourself. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Now the thing that brought me 360 to natural medicine was that a friend of mine's in Detroit. His name is P Groove. He was a musician. That's his musician name, right? P Groove, he was a producer and a rapper, right? So P Groove family, they had a health food store called Akhenaten, or Akhenaten, really. So Akhenaten is a pharaoh, right, in Egypt, who believed in one God. He believed that the creator is one. Before that, the pharaohs before him believed that um, that the ancestors were the ones to be worshipped, or the ancestors were the one to connect to, and there wasn't a supreme being. Or maybe they thought that the supreme being broken up into the ancestors, the plants, the planet, like people still think to this day. But Akhenaten was the one who believed that the creator is one, and that there's nothing worthy of worshiping but that one creator. He also was a follower of this prophet at the time that was in Egypt. His name is, they call him Joseph or Yusuf. I don't know if people might have heard of the story Joseph. The reason why I'm saying all of this is because this store was a store that was perfect for me, because this health food store, he offered me the job to be the manager of the health food store, right? So this health food store was where I reconnected with my natural medicine past, right? And the thing about the story is that by being named Akhenaten, his father was a Muslim, right? And his father, being a Muslim, dealt with healing on the spiritual level, but he also connected with the natural medicine, which is nature, right? Which is really, as indigenous people, whether we didn't use the term Muslim, as indigenous people in Jamaica, wherever we were around the world, we knew that we had to come from a spiritual base to connect with nature. And then the spirituality and nature combined together with us being that conduit, us being the binder, the spiritual knowledge, us, because we're the spiritual knowledge, which is light, us being light and material, and then nature being material, we combine them together. And I was able to hone my skill at Akhenaten in Detroit. It was a huge health food store. There I was able to not only talk to people who had health issues, but people who had spiritual issues. People who would say, I'm plagued by, I'm having nightmare, I'm being plagued like psychological things, I'm being plagued by demons, all of these type of things. We were able to help them with herbal medicine, with scriptures, with guidance through the ancestral plane, you know? So yeah, that was where I was really able to go back, and I realized, like, oh my God, I was a real student because my grandmother taught me everything. I mean, she used to take me out. An example is, she used to take me out early in the morning, and she would take the leaves off the plants, right? But she would talk to the plants before she take the leaf, right? And then she would give the plant some water, right, as a gift. And then she would take the rain dew that's on that leaf, and she would sap her wherever she would have a pain. She would sap it, and she would be praying at the same time, right? Talking to the Most High, talking to nature, because it's one, right? Showing that we're connected to nature, and that we're connected to the Most High. So that was then that all these memories and all these teachings began to come back, and I was able to develop it by studying the other great people and reconnecting to what my grandmother gave to me, you know?
It reminds me of two things. One, I too was able to spend my early formative years with my grandmother. They used to call me precocious, so I was definitely doing the most. And I am convinced, because I tell people, I said, yes, some of it was my, nature and how I was nurtured, because my nature at 3, I started directing and making decisions and, directing the adult folks in my life. And what was so interesting is they seemed to become, as a girlfriend said, yeah, I could tell everybody really followed you. And I'm like, oh my gosh, my leadership showed up early. So I have the fondness that you're sharing of spending that time with your grandmother. But it's also the truth about, how people say, if you raise up a child in a certain way, they will come back to that.
Yes.
What you've sown into them, right? And how valuable that is. But really what I wanted to touch on is something that a lot of times people don't correlate, is their mental well-being, and how much their mental well-being is based upon their mindset, is based upon that emotional health, the trauma that maybe they've experienced, but also connecting it to their gut health. People don't realize that if your body is full of parasites and toxins, that is influencing your thought process.
Yes.
because you are not healthy. So internally, your cells are fighting, trying to fight to see what's going to be dominant. That is energy that is not being, and then if you have parasites on the brain, right? Because of other things. So what you're talking about is really so important, and has been a big part of the education that we've
Yes.
had to share. And even right now in this country, since COVID, since the pandemic, the overall awareness has been growing because so many people who did not go to war, right, who were traumatized by the pandemic, are now suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder, which was typically thought to only happen if you've been deployed
Mhm.
into a traumatic, war environment. But no, people are walking around every day right now
Yes.
without a solution. And so what you are offering, what we are offering are, hey, one, hello, there are solutions to how
Yes.
you're feeling. And it can start with, first, let's detox all of the toxins
Yes.
in your system and let's build from there. So let's talk a little bit about that.
Well, that's true. What I always think about, I can only speak what works for me. My philosophy is based on life experience, right? So from what I see is that the first thing that you have to do, you got to start from the base. You have to have a spiritual base. If there's no spiritual base, there's nothing to start from. We need a spiritual base, and we need time to reflect. Because if you have time to look out, just look out into the world. You know what I'm saying? Like right now, I can look out and see the ocean, I see the hills and all of these things, right? The beauty of creation. Within it, there's always beauty. There's always beauty. And as a spiritual base, we have something to pull on. For example, in the Quran, Allah says that with every difficult, there are many eases.
Mhm.
So when you're going through something that's difficult, if you are able to reflect, you'll see so many blessings. And that alone, if you begin to concentrate on the blessings, then that alone will ease that trauma that you're going through. That will take away from it. There's a saying by Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam that said um, that don't be ungrateful. If you're ungrateful, it opens the door to pain and stress. But if you're grateful, it just unlock the door to blessings. The blessings just start rolling in and coming into you. And what I see is that that's what I've been able to use to help myself, is to reflect when I'm going through hardship, all the many blessings that I'm having, and to also remember this great advice, that to be in a state of gratitude. Once you put your mindset in a state of gratitude, no negativity can stay around. You'll find those negative energy dissipating, going away, moving away from you. And that alone will bring you out of any stressful situation that you're in. You know what I'm saying? So that's the first place that I would say start from. Speaking about the gut, of course, what you put in your mouth, it affects every part of the body, every organ of the body. And the colon is a very intelligent organ, right? And that's why I say it's connected to the heart, it's connected to the brain, right? My first experience that taught me about this stomach here and how intelligent it really is was that I was my first fast in Ramadan. It's Ramadan now, by the way, and I'm fasting, right? And
Okay.
my first fast in Ramadan, and this is many years ago, probably about 20 years ago. My first fast was that I wasn't hungry. I had just basically eaten, because you're supposed to eat before you start fasting, right? So I ate, I was fine. But it was around the time, say about noon, that I usually eat, right? And I was walking past the table with some food on the table. I wasn't thinking about it. I was just walking past. And do you believe that I could feel my stomach moved, like it was commanding me, like it's time to eat. What's up? We're usually eating. And that was amazing. I said, my stomach just move on its own, telling me it's an intelligent creation, right? And we know that that's where, they talk about chakras, and that you have the mind chakra, the heart chakra, and all of these things. We know that that's where what is called the nafs, or what is called the lower soul, resides. So that's where your sexual appetite reside, is in the lower, in your stomach. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? That's where your habits, a lot of your habits, your eating, and if you don't control it, then gluttony can create. And if you eat the bad things because you're addicted to sweets and all of these things, that you can't control yourself. So even the control of yourself. And that's why in the month of Ramadan, Allah says that fasting is prescribed for you, to teach you God consciousness, and for you to learn control over yourself. So that's one of the way fasting, to master yourself. And fasting will also get rid of the parasites in the gut. It will get rid of the parasites, because they won't have the sugar and all of the bad foods, all of the fake foods, all of the dairy to feed on. You know what I'm saying? So
Oh, yeah.
yes, killing those parasites in the gut, connecting to having a spiritual base to connect to, all of these things will help you to detox, not only from the stress, but from the parasitic elements that's in the body.
And it's so important. I mean, basically, what you said is you really laid out a reality of so many people, one, are struggling because of poor gut health. They're
Yes.
struggling because, I was explaining to someone who's saying, well, I don't really use sugar. It's like, it's not about just table sugar. It's that sugar is in everything. And then there's food that converts to sugar in your body. It's like, oh, I don't know all of this. It's like, exactly. It's like, it's all of these things combined, and combined with the more important thing that you just said, give your body a break.
Yes.
Allow your body a window to detox from some of these things,
Yes.
because you're right. If you're not feeding those parasites, they'll eventually fall off and die.
They
And
have.
that discipline, and it was only in the last few years, finally. Years ago, people tried to get me or encourage me to develop a meditation practice, and I tried, but type A personality, racy, racy, racy. But finally, I was able, one day, I was on the beach in the grill, and I got into such a deep meditative state. And I was able to get there because I had started really grounding every day. And in the morning, it would be my goal to get 10,000 steps on the beach.
Mhm.
And I noticed just that healing energy through the sand, healing my body, began to really change, and also detox my body and detox my mind. And it was almost as if there was a clarity. It was like I had a film, it seemed, in my mind that suddenly became clear.
Mm.
And in that process, I eventually was able to really find myself in a meditative state. And it was so fulfilling. Like, I was like, oh my God, how could I have not been able to get here? Because it was like your mind I was sitting there. Some guy stopped me after 45 minutes, just was, and I had to put word out, don't mess with Dr. Money on the beach.
That's amazing, because meditation is detoxification. You're detoxing the mind, especially somebody like you who thinks so much, who have so many ideas, who have so many plans and so many projects that you're working on. You have to take a break to detox the mind, because you'll find that even before you go in, if you just go all day, even before you go into sleep, you're going to be thinking about all these things. It's going to be racing, and then in your mind, and then what's going to happen is that you might develop insomnia, right? A lot of people have problems sleeping. So yeah, we do have to like cut off, to just take a break from all of these things, which is fasting, right? And reconnect to nature. Like what you said, that you was doing grounding, you know what I'm saying? You was, taking the herbs and all of these things. You have to connect with nature, because it is a part of you. Allah have a verse in Quran that says that He created everything in the universe for man.
Yeah.
Everything is there to serve us. So we actually have to connect. And this serving is a helping. This serving is to to take us to different levels. Because if you were to take the herbal medicine, right? Just think about it. If you was to cut out sugar, because they colonize us, we're in Jamaica where most of the slaves work on sugar plantations, right?
Mhm.
And they were able to send those sugars around the world, right? And they colonize our taste buds with sweets, right?
Mhm.
So most of us, it's hard for us to have any other forms of flavor. We just want sweet, 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 right? So we don't get a chance to have something bitter, something salty, something sour. You know what I'm saying? But if you take a break and you are able to dive into some of these plants, most of these plants that's really good to detox the body and get rid of the sugar is very bitter. We're talking about the Cersei, we're talking about the neem, we're talking about the guaco, we're talking about the rice bitters. These are very bitter plants, but after most of my patients, after 3 days of taking these herbal teas, their taste buds begin to normalize. And they're saying, "Doc, I can drink this now, no problem. It's not as bitter." And the more you drink it, it's like nothing, right? So we have to do the break like you did. We have to do some meditation just to clear the mind and get that fog away. And that's where the prosperity lies, really. Because I don't, me personally, I work a lot, but I don't, my purpose is not to make money. That's not my purpose. I don't even think about money, really. You know what I'm saying? My purpose is to help people. And when you find your purpose in doing whatever that you're doing, and it's a noble cause and a noble purpose, you'll find fulfillment. You really won't find joy if your purpose is just making money, because once you make money, you get used to it. I got money, I can buy this, I can go here, I can do all that. But once you connect to a purpose where you help people, you see the smile on people's faces. Your people say, "Oh my God, I got better." You see people say, "My health, I'm feeling amazing. I have energy." That's when you feel the fulfillment. So once again, connecting to a spiritual purpose and connecting to nature, you can't miss. You must
And
win.
you hit it right on the head, because that's, so if we were talking about manifestations, right? So that's
Yeah.
exactly, I was coming home yesterday. I'd flown up to the Bay Area for a funeral, and my Uber driver yesterday from the airport was, I don't know, we just hit it off from the beginning, right? Really, really great guy. And he asked me something about, well, how long had I lived in Vegas? And I said, well, it's kind of a funny story. I moved here to build a casino, but didn't want to build a casino. And I was so happy that COVID hit, so I didn't have to go forward. But it was kind of this crazy thing where this group had put together, $3.5 billion for this casino. I'm a real estate developer. I hadn't been able to get funding for a project that I wanted to do. So let me go and develop this project, so that I can create an income, a livelihood, right? And I thought, and people were, like, who walks away from $3.5 billion, whatever? And I was just like, I can't do it. I don't like casinos. I don't want to be in a casino, and I don't want. And when I saw the neighborhood, I was like, oh heck no, this cannot be my legacy. But thankfully, COVID hit, and then because I was in law school at the time, I ended up coming to Jamaica. Now, mind you, I had been coming to Jamaica over the years, but I had never stayed in Jamaica what ended up being 3 months straight. So I'd never
Wow.
been there that long at a time, and in that's when I really felt that I got to understand the sub markets and the communities, but more importantly, I transformed my body. So I was looking at, when we came back to campus after the year, because we were still in law school. And on average, my classmates had gained somewhere between 50 and 75 pounds. And I came looking 10 years, 15 years younger. And they're like, what the heck did you do? And I was like,
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
was in Jamaica. And so a friend of mine was saying, yeah, I thought you were just over in Jamaica frolicking around. I'm like, no, I was in law school, one, and I was still doing consulting, raising capital for companies and doing, commercial finance, but I could do it from my computer. But that also allowed me the space to do 10,000 steps a day on the beach, on the most healing beach, to eat the freshest, purest, organically grown foods, fruits, and vegetables. And I watched the impact of those things transform my body. So
Yeah,
I'm like, yes. So he
yeah,
said, the
yeah.
second I started talking about that, he said, oh my God, you lit up. He says, you definitely love the bit. I said, exactly. I'm in my happy place. I thank God every day that I get up and be the person, the visionary behind this venture that I'm creating, the people who I come in contact with, the fact that I'm able to help, and the beauty in the fact of that, sharing that with my son, right? And then, the other extended, it's just like, you, wow.
Yeah. Jamaica is a healing place. I swear. I mean, I usually bring people here that's dealing with health issues and need to be acclimated to the way they should eat and just having access to the herbal medicine and then can relax. I swear. After a couple of hours of landing, they began to feel changes. They've said to me like, "Oh, whoa, what's going on?" Like so, healing ground. Literally, it's a healing ground. It's something about the air. It's something about just the energy that's here that can just change your life. And then if you add the food, the organic foods, and you add the plants, then it's going to take it to a different level.
It
Yeah.
really is. Well, Tijani, believe it or not, as always, this small window of conversation passes really fast. But before we go, I want you to share just a little bit about some of the things that people could experience when they go to your website, Healing in the Gardens. And we're going to give them a bonus incentive to go to the website to get a discount. So tell us a little bit about some of the wonderful things that they could find there.
Okay, so first I have a company called Jamaica Organics, and it's a company that do wild crafting. What is called wild crafting. We have teams that go up into the mountain. We don't believe in farming because the farms usually use pesticides on their crops, and if even if they don't use it, even if they say they're organic, their neighbor might not be organic, and it can wash off that all of those killers into the farm. Plus, they don't rotate there. As I say, indigenously, we believe in rotating our farms, right? Changing out the crops or just moving the farm to a different area. So we choose wildcrafting, which is to go up into the mountains. The mountains that we choose is the Blue Mountains in Jamaica and the John Crow Mountains. So we're in Portland, St. Thomas region. We also pick our herbs based on the moon cycle. So when the moon is full, it pulls on the tide that's on the planet. But not only the tide, it pulls on every liquid that's on the planet. So it also pulls the phytonutrients and the chlorophyll from the roots to the leaves. So that's when we pick the leaves of the plants. And then also when it's the dark nights, what we call the dark nights, when it's barely a slither, we dig up the root because the power is in the root. So Jamaica Organics, we supply our clinic that's in Atlanta is called Healing in the Garden, but we're also online because we're able to help people from all around the world. Healing in the Garden supply the wildcraft herbs. We have a lot of herbal formula. I am a plant medicine specialist. That's my specialty. I create formulas to deal with any ailments, and believe me, they work very fast. I'm able to develop these formulas that can work fast. Because, herbal medicine, nature, the way God made nature, things move slow. Like, it takes a time. So I've dived deeper and deeper to create something that can work fast. So that's what you'll find on Healing in the Garden. Plant-based formulas, plant-based iron, herbal teas, and some natural health foods. And if you want to get a discount, please go online and shop, but make sure to use the discount code Dr. Money. You'll get immediately a 5% discount. And I'm telling you, Dr. Money is somebody who's doing the work. So we want you to go ahead and connect with her and connect with Healing in the Garden.
Absolutely. Well, I couldn't have said it any better. So, thank you. I was so excited. I was looking forward to our conversation and you didn't disappoint. So I know that this will be part of an ongoing conversation. When I get there, I'll be looking for you. Can't wait to continue expanding, our collaborations on how we not only support one another, but just the opportunities, because there's plenty of opportunities that I see that I've identified that are, bigger bigger than me. That's kind of how I work, is I build out an entire ecosystem so that we can all eat.
Well, you're talking about doing a retreat. You're talking about
Yes.
doing all this wellness. Hey, I'm here for it. The people need it. It's going to be a blessing. It's a blessing for me and you, but a blessing for everyone also. So yeah, I'm ready to connect, and I think that people would be happy to come.
Wonderful. Well, thank you again. I appreciate you for being my guest, and I hope to catch up with you soon.
Yeah, man, I'm always here. Respect and love. Just stay grounded, connect your heart, mind, and the gut as one, and connect to the Most High, and yeah, and nature, and we're gonna be just fine.
All right, Tijani. So take care.
Respect here,
Yeah. All right.
oneness, one
One
love.
love. Well, everyone, I want to thank you again for jumping on and checking us out. Hopefully, next week you'll come back. Remember, if it's Wednesday and it's noon Pacific time, Naked with Dr. Money. I look forward to seeing you then. And until then, be well. And don't forget, go to Healing in the Garden and use the code Dr. Money for a 5% discount off your purchases. Be well.